because of the 21 years of history that Taiwan Pride has, we have been able to help people kind of change their minds, change some of those stereotypes.
Truly what we're trying to do is, through the unifying power of sport and arts and culture, bring people together, try to start a conversation about what it means to be united.
Hello and a warm welcome to Connected. I'm Divya Gopalan. Have a look at this. 180,000 people joined the colorful, high-energy celebrations of Taiwan LGBT Pride at the end of October. It is the 21st year that people have been taking to Taipei streets in the march to mark LGBTQ+ rights, equality, and diversity. Now, Taiwan is considered one of the most progressive countries in the world when it comes to LGBTQ+ equality, and is a leader in Asia in establishing rights for the community. And in early November, Hong Kong held the Gay Games. It's the first time Hong Kong, and Asia for that matter, has hosted the 4-decade-old event. Thousands of athletes competed in Hong Kong and in its co-host location, Guadalajara, Mexico. Well, in today's show, we look at what these international and high-profile events do for the LGBTQ+ community in the region and what it takes to pull it off. And to do that, we'll be heading to Hong Kong to talk to those behind the Gay Games. But first, joining us here in Taipei to talk about Pride, Brian Cragun, board member and spokesperson for the NGO that makes Taiwan LGBT+ Pride possible, the Taiwan Rainbow Civil Action Association. All right, Brian, let me just start with you here. Firstly, how did you feel about this year's Pride?
Oh, well, I think the thing that stood out to most of us was it was really great this year that we didn't have any rain, so we got to see a lot more people than we did last year. And overall, just the general feeling on the day of the event was absolutely amazing, because seeing so many people take to the streets of Taipei for LGBTQ+ rights is really the whole reason that we put on the event every year.
What would you say would be kind of the significance of an event like this for the LGBTQ+ community? Like, what is it that you hope to achieve from this? People love the color, the fanfare, and perhaps the spectacle of it, and sometimes that might even drive more stereotypes. So what is the big achievement of an event like this?
I personally think that the real big achievement, or really what it is that Pride represents, other than being a giant party or a carnival event for everyone, is increasing visibility in the community. An event like this, where we have over 176,000 people coming out to the streets of Taipei just to walk and be together, respect each other and our diversity, that kind of thing is something that, in general, I think not just has an effect on the day of the event, but also throughout the year. It brings to people's minds these different members of communities that maybe are less visible.
Right, and how would you say Taiwan Pride intertwines with the country's legal LGBTQ+ rights movement? Does it become a significant part of the movement?
I think that especially back when Taiwan LGBT+ Pride started, back in the time just Taiwan Pride, in 2003, it was a really big step in overall visibility nationwide for the LGBT+ community. And because of the 21 years of history that Taiwan Pride has, we have been able to help people kind of change their minds, change some of those stereotypes like you were talking, and start to realize that equality and equal rights for all is something that really benefits society as a whole.
Right, Brian, I'm going to take a temperature check around the region. Taiwan, of course, is a leader in Asia when it comes to LGBTQ+ rights. It's the only place on the continent where same-sex marriage is legal. Now, most other countries in the region have not only been lagging in granting the community equal rights, but some are even rolling back any progress made in the fight for equality. Rick Loward has this report on the regional push for rights and same-sex marriage.
Tears of joy on the streets of Taipei in 2019, as Taiwan became the first country in Asia to legalize same-sex marriage.
Taiwan's legalization of same-sex marriage in 2019 was a watershed moment for the entire Asia. It served not only as an affirmation for the LGBTIQ community in Taiwan, but it also sets a precedent for other Asian countries.
But since then, no other nation in Asia has followed suit. Of the 34 countries around the world that recognize same-sex marriage, Taiwan is an outlier in this region. Across Asia, all other LGBTQ communities are still fighting for that equality and recognition. Activists from Nepal to the Philippines and South Korea are working to raise awareness, taking cases to court, and advocating changes in the law, with varying degrees of success.
Oh, that's a difficult one. I think certain ways, certain things is moving ahead, but in certain ways we're also moving backward.
In India, Asia's largest democracy, the top court threw out a case asking them to recognize same-sex unions, saying it was up to legislators to change marriage laws. But just last month in Hong Kong, a partial win for the community. The Court of Final Appeal said that the city government must find a way to recognize same-sex partnerships. While in Nepal earlier this year, a judicial order was issued to make same-sex marriage legal, but so far, same-sex couples there have been unable to wed.
I think that the state of LGBTIQ rights across Asia would be diverse and dynamic. We might be one of the largest, most diverse continent, but we are also one of the most divisive. And this is because we have multiple cultures, traditions, and religions, each contributing to its unique stance on LGBTIQ issues.
These differing traditions and conservative cultures mean that each LGBTQ community in Asia faces their own challenges as they push for marriage rights. But as slow progress is made across the region, people are gathering in Taipei for Asia's largest Pride event, and there is also solidarity in the battle for equality. Klein Wang and Rick Lowett for TaiwanPlus.
And Brian, you also work with other organizations in other countries too, namely Japan and South Korea. Can you tell us about what kind of work you're doing with them, and what is it what challenges you're trying to help them with?
Well, like we've said, Taiwan LGBT Pride has over 21 years of experience. And because of that, we have a lot of experience that we can share with them. So, for example, with Seoul Queer Pride, as well as the Kyushu Rainbow Pride that just took place in the beginning of November, we've been able to kind of share with them the different kinds of hurdles and pitfalls that we've run into over the years. For example, in applying with the government for the rights to be able to use the different plazas or areas that they hold their events, as well as kind of just generally sharing different things to be aware of that we in our past have run into.
Right, and in that sense, why do you think it is so important for these countries, particularly where perhaps they don't have as many rights, the fight is still in its early stages for rights, to have events like this?
Just like in Taiwan, I feel like it's very important for us to have had Taiwan Pride for these last 21 years. Again, I think it all really comes down to the visibility and to stepping out and letting society see that members of the LGBTQ plus community are their brothers, their sisters, their siblings, their aunts, uncles, and family members. And in seeing that in the people who are standing up for rights, or even people who may just be allies of the movement, I think that helps in general, regardless of what country it is.
Well, as we mentioned, Hong Kong hosted the Gay Games. Now nearly 2,400 participants from over 40 territories and countries competed in events which were jointly held in Hong Kong and Mexico. It is also the first time the 4-decade-old Games are being held in Asia. To tell us more about the competitions, the challenges of hosting it, and its significance, we're joined by David Ko. He's the Director of Marketing and Communications for the Hong Kong Gay Games. So, David, let's start with this for a wider audience who may not know. What are the Gay Games and what kind of events are taking place?
Sure, and thank you for having me. So the Gay Games, as you mentioned, are celebrating their 40th anniversary this year. This is an international multi-sports arts and culture event that happens once every 4 years. The last Gay Games was in Paris, and the next one after Hong Kong will be in Valencia in Spain. And it is being held for the first time in Asia, and of course for the first time in Hong Kong as well. So there are 18 sporting events, including new events that we added especially for Hong Kong, including dragon boat racing, dodgeball, mahjong, and so on. And of course, as with any major sports event of this scale, we will have opening and closing ceremonies, a festival village, and daily arts and culture events.
So who can participate in these games? Like, how would one qualify to be part of the games?
So our motto is all about inclusion, right? So it's about participation, inclusion, and really challenging your own personal best. So we don't put any restrictions on who can enter. If you want to register for any of our sporting events, you can do so without the need to qualify. So we're being as inclusive as possible.
Right, so the games have faced some political opposition in the run-up when you were trying to organize this. Can you talk to us about some of the challenges faced and what kind of opposition you faced?
I have been a volunteer with the Gay Games Hong Kong for about 3 years now, and I have a background in communications. And when I was first brought on to assist, the games were being attacked by a particular lawmaker in Hong Kong who was very opposed to the games being held here. He felt that it was a challenge to traditional family values and that it wasn't lawful in his eyes. And so we had to do a lot of outreach and communication to continue to make sure that people understand the mission and the vision behind the games. And that was the first time that we encountered this sort of opposition. But of course, in the years since, we are no stranger to this sort of opposition. And the way that we look at it is we are here to change hearts and minds. We are here to educate everybody about the need for a more diverse and inclusive society.
Right, and one of the criticisms that have been lobbed at the games, particularly from, again, another lawmaker, is that it's used just for advocacy rather than what it's meant to be, sporting in competition. And how have you countered that?
If we are in advocacy, what we are advocating is a world that's more inclusive and that embraces diversity. We do believe that we live in a world that's increasingly divided. And truly what we're trying to do is, through the unifying power of sport and arts and culture, bring people together and try to start a conversation about what it means to be united. Our mission is unity in diversity. And we truly believe that when everyone understands the strength and the power of a world that's united, a lot of what we're trying to achieve will come naturally, whether it's looking at a more open society, a more progressive society, harmony, and I mean harmony in the sense of social harmony, and just people working together. I think that's very important for us. We're not here to advocate for legal changes or legal recognition of different minority rights, because there are many organizations out there that do that. There is a very successful organization in Hong Kong, for example, called the Hong Kong Marriage Equality, and their sole purpose is to advocate for marriage equality in the law courts and also in the public's hearts and minds. And we leave them to do that very worthwhile work, but that is not what the Gay Games are here for. We're here to truly leverage the power of sports and people's appreciation for beauty in arts and culture. And through those, in a softer way, kind of bring people around to their understanding of what we're trying to achieve.
Even so, how much have concerns about the national security law affected perhaps participation and attendance? And for our audience, the national security law in Hong Kong has been used to arrest human rights activists and others. So people, how concerned were the participants about this?
We've been actually very gratified in seeing a lot of news reports of just different media organizations interviewing the participants who are here in Hong Kong. unanimously, they all say they do not see it as a problem. They do not see it as something that would deter them from coming to Hong Kong. Of course, there are people that have made the decision not to come to Hong Kong because of fears around the national security law. All we can do is try to tell them, you have to come to Hong Kong to experience what it's like here. We've heard so much feedback from participants coming from overseas. We have people coming from Canada, the UK, the Netherlands, North America, South Korea, Japan. All of them have told both the press and a lot of our volunteers over the last week that they are thankful and incredibly appreciative of their time here. And they have never for a minute worried about the national security law.
Now, David, I understand that the two largest contingent of athletes are from Hong Kong and mainland China. What are you then hoping that these games will do for the LGBT community in the region?
I think it's the same mission. We're trying to spread a message of inclusion. We're trying to change people's attitudes. We're striving for a society that's tolerant and welcoming. And those principles apply wherever you go, whether it's in Hong Kong, mainland China. We all want to live in a society where diversity is embraced. And so we are very thankful that we have so many friends coming to Hong Kong from mainland China. They are coming to us from Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and other cities. And we truly embrace that. We also actually have participants coming from Taiwan as well. So we also welcome them. And in fact, at the opening ceremony, when the Taiwan contingent came in the march, there was an uproar of just cheers of them coming to Hong Kong. And we hope that they got the message that they are very warmly welcomed here.
Thank you. That's really good to hear. Thank you so much, David, co-director of marketing and communications for the Hong Kong Gay Games. Thank you so much for talking to us. So going back to big events, visibility, Brian, tell us how much these events really can address issues that are being faced by the LGBTQ+ community, or is it more about just bringing the LGBTQ+ community to the forefront to be seen and heard?
I think aside from the visibility that comes from hosting such a large event, one of the biggest things the Taiwan Rainbow Civil Action Association does every year in preparation for Pride is our theme and theme statement. And in our theme statement, we discuss the various issues in society that we hope to be addressed, and that we hope that by holding our event and tying it together with this theme statement, that we can increase visibility, not just of the community, but also of the issues that the community faces.
There is a push for more equality within the workplace. Can you give us a sense of where we are in getting that kind of equality and getting issues addressed?
I think that by and large in Taiwan, we see that a number of more international companies, obviously they have their DEIA plans and programs that are underway. And we see that in Taiwan, that's kind of starting to catch on into local companies as well. However, in some industries, it is still very difficult for some people to come out in the workplace. And I think that, like you said, Taiwan's already made quite a bit of progress, but there's still room for improvement.
Yeah, so despite the progress we are seeing, there are those that still are perhaps not entirely on board the progress we're seeing in the LGBTQ+ community. There is a conservative faction of society here in Taiwan. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and the battle of winning over that part of society?
Right. As far as conservatism goes, as was mentioned in the little bit about the Hong Kong Gay Games, I think a lot of the conservative feelings and the kind of slowness towards acceptance is probably rooted in both the cultural traditions as well as religious traditions of the area. And I think that it's one of those things that you can't expect everyone to be completely accepting of everything right at once. You have to take the time, and some people take longer to warm up to it. So I think a lot of it is just people who maybe have more of an old-timey way of thinking, more old-fashioned.
Well, one of the biggest challenges faced by LGBTQ plus people is coming out to their parents. Even in Taiwan, which is seen as more progressive, as we've heard, than its neighbors, having to come out to your mom and dad can be one of the most difficult things you do in your life. Ariel 2 looks at an NGO that provides telephone counseling and resources to the LGBTQ plus community to help them navigate their sexuality and create public dialogue for the issues they face.
A dazzling display of drag queens, floats, and colorful flags kicks off Taiwan's Pride celebration. The annual Trans March was launched 5 years ago by the Taiwan 同志 Hotline Association. The NGO has been providing social support services to the transgender community since 2008, but their journey started many years before.
喂，热线你好。
Hotline launched in 1998 to become the first organization to serve as a helpline for the LGBTQ community. They train volunteers to counsel queer people. It's a mission close to Secretary General Sean Du's heart.
If you are a queer person, you can just call us to ask for resources in your region, and also discuss about your worries. Also, we answer phone calls about coming out issues, both from the parent side and also from the children's side.
While Taiwan is one of the most progressive countries in Asia for LGBTQ rights, many still consider it a conservative society. This can make it especially challenging for the LGBTQ community to gain acceptance from their parents. A struggle which hotline worker Wei Junchen can relate to.
大三的时候在热线实习，那时候正在做的婚姻平权的运动的电访调查，所以我就觉得好，那我尝试着拨电话回家，我就想要知道他们对于自己同志小孩子的看法。然后一打电话回家呢，发现是爸爸接，那时候我愣了5秒钟，对，然后我那时候就是很紧张，我不知道怎么做，对，然后我想到我现在来工作是要问问题，所以我就开始问了问题。那我把问题就是你接不接受同志婚姻啊？你有没有同志朋友啊之类这些问题啊就问完。我爸都说他没有同志朋友，他不接受同志婚姻这样子。那我挂掉电话后，我其实心里很复杂。第一个原因是因为我爸没有认出我声音，第二个是就是我爸当着我的面不接受同志，等于说否定我这样子。
It's an issue that Georgia Guo is familiar with. 20 years ago, she attended her first counseling session with Hotline to help understand and come to terms with her child's sexuality.
我走进去的时候，我是第5位妈妈然后有另外的4个爸妈都在哭。那我当时就觉得说，我的震撼是说，原来一个同志的爸爸妈妈是如此的辛苦，是如此的困难去接受这样一个事实。当然是因为资讯的缺乏，还有不了解自己小孩子的过程嘛，所以那时候就有发愿说，好像我们可以帮一点忙。
Georgia is the mother of a transgender person and has become a regular at Pride events. She even started her own association, Loving Parents of LGBT, to bridge the gap between LGBTQ children and their parents.
其实这些爸妈所感觉到的孤单，就跟同志自己发现自己身份时候的孤单其实是一样的。因为我觉得我了解越多，我越能够去有立场去帮忙他怎么样跟他的爸妈接触，帮忙他的爸爸妈妈去了解他。
An understanding that Wei Jun's parents have now formed after years of conversations.
我有邀请我爸爸去参加我们就是热线的父母的活动，然后去协助其他父母这样子。然后我爸就是在现场就说他很快就接受了。然后我妈就跟他说你6年你才接受。我爸说这么久就是对他来说这6年是一瞬间，但是其实是很长的一段时间。
Today, the hotline receives over 1,800 calls a year and offers a wide range of services from telephone consulting, AIDS prevention to gender education and more.
I think the situation is getting better, but still not enough. So many LGBT are still in the closets. There's still discrimination happened, and we don't have a comprehensive equality law or anti-discrimination law. And for transgender people, they still suffer from these binary settings. Yeah.
With this year's event marking the largest Pride marches in East Asia to date, many feel positive that Taiwan is making progress in the fight for true LGBTQ equality.
For people who are struggling for their identity, I just want to say that you are not alone.
And for Hotline, they continue their mission, hoping for a future where society no longer requires the services of an LGBTQ helpline. Seeing Ling, Cyrus Savani, and Ariel 2 for Connected.
Can you tell us the importance of for these NGOs and these grassroots organizations in helping push for change, especially here in Taiwan?
Oh, definitely. I mean, even with Taiwan LGBT Plus Pride having 21 years of history now, it all started with the Taiwan Tongzhi Hotline Association doing the first Taiwan Pride back in 2003. And from a tiny event where they only expected 100 people to come out, they actually saw 800 people come out, to our largest Pride in 2019 with 200,000 people coming out. All of these things are a snowball effect. And these organizations, we work with over 13 organizations as well to plan Pride. All of them do a different part in helping society kind of get the ball rolling, push the envelope, and help the community become more equal.
Brian, it's been great to have you on the program. Thank you so much for sharing your insight. Brian Cragun, reminding us that the March for Equality is paved with pride, perseverance, and the power of community. Thank you, Brian. And to our audience, as always, it's been great to have your company. Stay informed, stay engaged, and stay connected.